So we want to go immensely practical and also esoteric at the same time. So what we're going to do here, okay, is open up both doors at once, because that appears to be the only way to make this effective. So if we look at the ancient chakra system as passed us down through the Hindus, what I want to toss out first is just take away from this any thoughts of anything that's out there. Every center that the Hindus documented, I don't got a better word for this. If you do, let me know. Every area that was documented has to do with a nerve plexus in the body. So if we're going to play with this, let's go through all 7 layers and have a little bit of fun. So if we want to imagine, if you're looking straight ahead at another human who's standing, that they're severed in centers. They basically are at the sacrum. If you take your hands while you're standing and just place them so they're touching, so the fingertips of your thumb and your pointer finger are touching, your hands are basically resting on the pubic girdle. That area there would be the sacral center. If we move up a little bit more and just stick your thumb in your belly button and allow your palm to touch your belly, where your palm is would be the navel center. If we move up a little bit more, the area right below the breastbone, where it's soft and mushy, where it's nice to hit people in karate, is the solar plexus center. If we move up a little bit more, basically right above the nipples, we have the area of the heart center. That's where the thymus is, and has to deal with the immune system in a strange way. We'll talk about that later. If we come up to your throat, we have the throat center. Right above and between the eyes, we have the third eye, and at the top we have the crown, basically where a ball cap would sit. Boom, for the lack of a better way to put that. So if we just notice this, what we want to do is to think about some of the esoteric approach to this, as well as some of the street level, how do I use this stuff? Because they're not separatable. You can learn about them from comparing them side by side. Another thing we want to toss out. So another aspect we want to toss out that you may want to consider is that you cannot observe without interacting. In other words, observing changes the experience. This has been demonstrated in subatomic physics. A lot of neat philosophy people have pondered this for ages. But literally, observing a situation changes it. So what we want to do is to start going in a direction which we can open up both doors at once. So let's do it. So if we start at the area of the sacrum, sacrum in Latin, the word sacrum comes from sacred bone. This is the area of stability in your body. So if we just stand, if you're standing up, and you allow your fingertips and your thumbs to touch in front of your body, where your hands naturally hang to, it's basically going to be down around the area of your pubic area. This is where the area of the sacral center is. Now, at that lowest portion of the body, there's a couple things we want to start to factor in. The first of which is that area of the body has to do with elimination. In other words, we poop and we pee. Okay? Keeping it nice and simple. That area of the body also has to, that's your foundation. If you're lifting something heavy or pushing or walking or standing, or if you even want your blood pressure to normalize, you want to allow the sacrum portion of the body to line up under your body well. So when it comes to the sacrum, the sacred bone, this has to do with elimination. And this has to do with our grounding. This has to do with our foundation. It's the lowest portion of the spine in the body. It has to do with the sacrum. If we want to use this technology that we're playing with, one of the foundational concepts we want to start with is we use this to discover by eliminating how interconnected and how at one we are. Plain and simple, we are very, very intertwined with one another. If we harm anyone, we harm ourselves. If we help anyone, we help ourselves. Now, when we're approaching utilizing this, these are the 7 keys. When we approach using this, first key has to deal very simply with eliminating this illusion that I can get over on you without getting over on myself. If I think that I can get over on you and it will benefit me, it will not. It cannot. In the universe that we live in, there is intrinsic balance. If I go to, and this is why I say you don't want to install longing, lust, desire into people. The people that I know that want to do that are longing, desiring, and lusting for. Of course, that's what they want to install into people, so they get the verification that what they feel is correct. What I encourage you to do is to play with willingness. You'll notice the concept of willingness at this first center helps us to understand that we are on this road, this path, this journey, this evolution together. as the creation story unfolds through us, and we grow and we experience new and wonderful things, we help each other to do that, or we prevent each other to do that. It's up to you. So the first key has to do with understanding this, that we are all so intertwined together. There's a oneness that all of humanity shares. If we approach using this technology while keeping that in mind, that will ground it and stabilize it and eliminate anything which is waste, which is this illusion of separateness. So let's begin there. So if we move up just a little bit, place your thumb in your belly button and allow your palm to hang directly below your belly button. That is the area of the navel. The navel has to do with nurturing. The navel has to do with sex. The navel has to deal with money. The energy of money. So if we want to play here, we get to understand some things. Money is a vehicle for nurturing. We could call money exchange. That's what happened in the old days. We simply exchanged. We have money as a medium of exchange now. Before, if I had a CD and you had a goat and I needed a goat, you'd give me a goat for a CD. Now we do this with money. If you have a goat and I have money, I give you money for your goat, or your milk, or your cheese. So if we're going to play with this, and notice the area of the navel, you can go out there and try to, we've mentioned about doing this unethically with desire. But, desire is a natural part of life, as long as willingness is built into the equation. If we're looking at that area of the body, sex and money, exchange, nurturing, we want to make sure when we use this, we're using this for a nurturing aspect, not a control, but for nurturing. Anytime we put a product up for sale, one of the questions that I go through this system, I want to make sure that the product is nurturing to the degree that we're releasing it. In other words, if we're releasing a product that is worth so much money, we want to make sure that there is that much, if not more, nurturing capacity built in to the product and the support that goes with that product. If we're working with this remote influence, and let's say there's a girl at the bar and you want to connect with, make sure that the relationship, that the intent that you have in mind involves nurturing. If we start at the bottom and work up, we have the sacrum. So we eliminate any thought of, well, I can get over on her. If you do that, you're getting over on you. If we move up a little bit more, then you can't get over on you. And we come up to nurturing. This area of nurturing in the body, the exchange center, is what we could call this. If we're going to work with the exchange center of the body, what we get to keep in mind is that mutual nurturing. At any time, all transactions, especially if you're using any type of remoteness, using the simple method that we've talked about here, we want to have mutual nurturing. So let's say we want to use this for sales. You're a sales guy, you have an appointment at 10 o'clock. It's 9:30 and you're nearby. You're not there, but you're nearby. And so what do? You form the intent to connect with your prospect. And you notice your breathing. When you notice your breathing, you can notice if there is a shift that you've perceived already, or if one occurs immediately afterwards. There's always a shift. You just get to notice it. When you notice that connection, have the intent to be in sync. If you're across the room, or within visual range, synchronize breathing. Boom. At that point, you touch in a way that is appropriate. As you're doing this, you're also gathering data. Some of this data may be conscious, some of it may be outside of your consciousness. Let's say within your awareness, and some of it you may not be aware of. Either way, we approach it this way. And let's think about this for a second. We could try to implant thoughts in their mind about having things go a certain way. Or perhaps a much better way to go with this would be to very simply establish a mutually nurturing connection. And notice the shifts that are appropriate, that happen from touching appropriately. And if we move down again a little bit more, would we want them doing what we're doing to them to us? If we're having a mutual nurturing, which is the area of the navel, and we go down and we ask the question that comes from the sacrum, which has to deal with we cannot get over on anyone. We eliminate this distance. If we're one thing that is intimately connected with itself, I can't get over on you. You can't get over on me. We can both mutually win, mutually help each other, or slow down the process. Notice in this little scenario some neat things that you can play with. And we get to ask the question about the solar plexus. What else are around there? Okay, we have the stomach, we have the liver, we have the area of the intestines, all occurring right around that general area of the body. Well, the upper portion of the intestines. Okay. So what we have here is the area of assimilation, the area of digestion. this area of the solar plexus, if we get into this area in a way that is disempowering, we tend to do. Again, notice that there's an aspect of that with everyone that we've covered so far. If we get into this area of the solar plexus, it becomes a power struggle. In other words, who has more force? If we're playing any type of sport and you get kicked or punched in this area of the body, you lose your ability to use force. It just literally gets drained from the body. If your digestive system isn't powerful enough, you're not going to get the nutrients from your food. Again, this has to do with the area of the solar plexus. If we're going to apply this to what we're doing, again, we started out with this understanding of the remote thing. If we start at the sacrum, this eliminates this illusion about how separate we think we are. It gives us the opportunity to gather data on that and experience how interconnected we all are. If we move up a little bit to the navel, we get to whatever we do, it has to be mutually nourishing. And we gave the example of a sales guy literally tuning into the prospect before the meeting. If we move up to this area here, the area of power struggle, the area of I have more force than you, what we get to do here is instead of struggling against one another, we get to mutually work with one another. If we're going to take down a brick wall, and there's 4 of us working on it, it will go down much faster than if there's 1 of us working on it. If we're working with this area of the solar plexus, we can work against each other and beat each other up for the opportunity to see who gets the glory of ripping down that wall. Or we can have our entire digestive system work together. The stomach doesn't get all the glory, neither does the liver or the intestines. They all work together with a harmony. If we're going to approach the area of the solar plexus, we get to explore working together to digest, to assimilate, to... Again, if we're working toward the area of willingness in this area of the body, this has to deal with the teamwork to experience this together. If I walk toward the girl at the bar and she's experienced a feeling of emptiness, and I allow that to exist, going, I don't got the time for that, that could infect somebody else, and that could infect somebody else, and that could infect somebody else. And literally, if I do go out there and work with it, what we've done could affect many, many other people. It could be digested and assimilated by them. So if we're thinking about this, let's assume you've got an ethical product to sell. We're going to go back to the sales guy thing. And you're using this technology before you get to the meeting. One of the things that we want to start factoring in is the way your product, and this is what I do, my product will help you. Because you've been helped by using the product, you can't help but help other people. They're helped basically by the shift in you. As I've been influenced by the shifts in other people, you'll be influenced by what I do if I'm offering it with this intent. So when we're doing this and we tune into the client using the methods that we've already talked about, very simply what we want to notice and what we want to do is have this intent of assimilation, of digestion, of understanding. If you want real power, I'm working with a fellow right now who wants to manifest great things in his life. And one of the things that I share with him is the thought he has to help manifest great things in other people's lives. The greater what he manifests in others, the greater that will manifest for him. And you don't even think of just your clients. I think of my friend in Texas, and I think of his son, and I think of his wife, and I think about his son's friends, because if his relationship with his son improves and grows and becomes exponentially cooler, I don't mean he's got a bad relationship. I'm talking about you can have a good relationship, or you can have a really cool thing going on. And we go from good to really cool going on. That can change his friends. And his son's friends. And their friends. And it'll ripple outward. So if we charge $100 or $500 for a product or $1,000 for some training, we think of and we consider the ripples that that training will have as it continues outward into the universe. As it is digested and assimilated by others. And so we factor this in. And there we have the third key.